Cyrus the Great, Attila the Hun, Tamerlane, Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan. The end of 5 great conquerors. Amazing History. New episode. Cyrus the Great, the legendary founder of the Persian Empire, a ruler known for his wisdom, military genius, and the creation of one of the largest empires in history. But despite his glorious reign, his death remains shrouded in mystery. How did one of the greatest conquerors of all time meet his end? And why do we have multiple, conflicting accounts? Before we dive into his death, let's understand the man himself. Cyrus the Great ruled from 559 to 530 BCE. He defeated the Medes, conquered the powerful Babylonian Empire, and established a model of governance that was advanced for its time, embracing religious and cultural tolerance. But even great rulers are not immortal. The most well-known account of Cyrus's death comes from the Greek historian Herodotus. According to him, Cyrus met his fate in battle against the fierce Massagetæ, a nomadic tribe from Central Asia, led by Queen Tomyris. The Persians, using deception, initially captured her son, Spargapises, who later took his own life. Enraged, Tomyris vowed revenge. In the final battle, the Massagetæ overwhelmed the Persian forces. Cyrus was either killed in combat or executed after capture. Tomyris, in an act of vengeance, supposedly ordered his head to be placed in a bag of blood, saying, "Now you are sated with blood." But is this really how Cyrus died? Other sources tell different stories. The Greek physician Ctesias, who lived in the Persian court, offers a different version. He claims Cyrus died peacefully in Persia, succumbing to wounds from battle rather than being slain by Queen Tomyris. Persian and Babylonian records are strangely silent about his death, hinting that it might not have been as dramatic as the Greeks claimed. Some suggest he died in a battle near the northeastern borders of his empire, but not at the hands of Tomyris. Regardless of how he died, Cyrus's legacy was so profound that even his successors honored him. His tomb in Pasargadae remains one of the most respected monuments in the ancient world. Even Alexander the Great, centuries later, paid homage to the great Persian king. The mystery of his death may never be fully solved, but his life's impact is undeniable. Cyrus the Great was more than just a conqueror. He was a visionary leader whose policies influenced governance, culture, and human rights for centuries to come. So, what do you think? Did Cyrus die a warrior's death at the hands of Tomyris? Or did he succumb to battle wounds later? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Attila the Hun, a name that struck fear into the heart of the Roman Empire. A ruthless warrior, a master tactician, and the leader of the unstoppable Hunnic horde. But while his life was filled with bloodshed and conquest, his death remains one of history's greatest mysteries. How did the scourge of God meet his end? Was it a mere accident, or something far more sinister? Before his sudden death, Attila was at the height of his power. By the mid-5th century, he had devastated much of Europe, plundering Roman cities and forcing emperors to pay tribute. He was feared by both the Eastern and Western Roman empires. But in the year 453 AD, everything changed. According to the most widely accepted account, Attila died on the night of his wedding. He had just taken a new wife, a young woman named Ildiko. The feast was grand, the wine flowed, and the Hunnic warlord celebrated late into the night. But by morning, something was terribly wrong. The historian Priscus, who chronicled much of Attila's reign, states that the mighty warlord died not in battle, but from a nosebleed. It is said that in his drunken sleep, Attila suffered a massive hemorrhage. His nose began to bleed, and unable to wake or react, he choked on his own blood. For such a ruthless conqueror to die in such an unglamorous manner seems almost unbelievable. But is this really how Attila met his end? Or was there something more to the story? Some historians believe Attila's death was no accident. Could he have been murdered? Poisoned by Ildiko? Some believe his new bride, Ildiko, was part of a plot to assassinate him. Could she have poisoned him on his wedding night? Killed by a rival? Others suggest that Attila's own men, or even Rome, had him eliminated. His dominance was absolute, but his enemies were many. An assassination. Ordered by Rome? Rome had every reason to want Attila dead. Could Eastern Roman Emperor Marcian have orchestrated his assassination, knowing the Huns would crumble without their leader? Regardless of how he died, Attila's passing marked the beginning of the end for the Hunnic Empire. Without his ruthless leadership, the Huns quickly fell into chaos, defeated by the very empires Attila had terrorized. A barbarian to some, a hero to others, Attila's legend lives on. His death remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Was it fate or foul play? What do you think? Did Attila die of natural causes, or was he murdered? Let us know in the comments. Tamerlane, or Timur the Lame, a name that struck fear from Persia to India, from Russia to the Ottoman Empire. A man who called himself the Sword of Islam and dreamed of conquering China. But in the cold winter of 1405, just as he prepared for his greatest campaign, death came for the last great conqueror. Was it fate, disease, or a curse placed upon him? In the winter of 1404, despite his advanced age of 68, Tamerlane set his sights on a new conquest, China. His previous campaigns had left entire cities in ruins, but now he aimed to bring the Ming dynasty to its knees. His forces were prepared, his generals ready. But destiny had other plans. As his army reached the Sir Darya River, Tamerlane fell gravely ill. He was stricken with fever and chills, his body weakened by years of battle and old war wounds. The disease spread rapidly, and soon the unstoppable conqueror was unable to stand. Some historians believe he succumbed to pneumonia, worsened by the harsh winter conditions. Others suggest typhoid fever, a common killer in military camps. But was this just illness, or something more? Some believe Tamerlane's death was no coincidence. Months earlier, he had desecrated the city of Baghdad and sacked holy sites. Could he have been cursed for his actions? Legends say that his brutal conquests had angered the heavens, and that fate itself had struck him down before he could claim China. On February 18, 1405, in the icy cold of winter, Tamerlane breathed his last. His war horses stood still, his soldiers wept, and his empire was left without its ruthless master. With Tamerlane gone, his empire, like those of all great conquerors before him, began to fracture. His descendants fought for power, his lands were divided, and within a century, the empire he built had faded. But Timur's story doesn't end there. In 1941, Soviet archaeologists opened his tomb in Samarkand. Despite warnings that disturbing Timur's grave would bring great disaster. Within hours of the tomb being opened, Hitler's armies launched their invasion of the Soviet Union, Operation Barbarossa. Was it mere coincidence, or was Timur's wrath real? Shortly after Timur's remains were returned to his tomb in December 1942, the tide of World War II changed. The Soviets defeated the Nazis at Stalingrad, marking the beginning of Hitler's downfall. Tamerlane's death remains a mystery. Was it sickness, fate, or divine punishment? And was the legend of his curse true? What do you think? Was Timur's death just an unfortunate illness? Or was there something more at play? Let us know in the comments. Alexander the Great, the undefeated warrior, the son of Zeus to some, the builder of an empire that stretched from Greece to India. At just 32 years old, he had conquered the known world. And then, suddenly, he was dead. But how? Was it fever, poison, or something far more sinister? In the year 323 BC, Alexander returned to Babylon after years of relentless conquest. But instead of planning his next great campaign, he fell gravely ill. For 12 days, the greatest warrior in history lay dying in agony. Ancient sources claim that Alexander was struck by a mysterious fever, one that left him weak, voiceless, and finally unable to move. His body was racked with pain, and no physician could save him. Some believe he died from malaria, typhoid fever, or West Nile virus, all common diseases in the ancient world. But others suspect something far more sinister. One of the most famous theories is that Alexander was poisoned by those closest to him. But who would dare kill the greatest ruler of all time? The general's betrayal? Some say Alexander's generals feared his ambition. He had no clear heir, and with his death, they could carve up his empire for themselves. A revenge plot by the Macedonians? Others believe it was a Macedonian nobleman, furious over Alexander's adoption of Persian customs and his execution of close friends like Parmenion and Philetus. The Persian conspiracy? Or was it the Persians? A final act of revenge against the man who had burned their empire to the ground? But if Alexander was poisoned, why did it take so long for him to die? Ancient poisons worked fast, yet Alexander lingered for nearly 2 weeks. Some modern historians suggest a slow-acting poison, like white hellebore, may have been used to make his death look natural. On June 10th or 11th, 323 BC, Alexander the Great took his last breath. His empire was left without a ruler, and chaos erupted. But the mystery doesn't end there. According to ancient accounts, Alexander's body did not decay for days, a sign that he was either a god or something far more mysterious had happened. Some believe this was divine proof of his greatness. Others argue it suggests he may not have been dead at all. Could he have suffered from a neurological disorder that left him paralyzed, but still alive? With Alexander's death, the world changed forever. His empire, once unstoppable, shattered into rival kingdoms. But his name would never be forgotten. Was Alexander the Great a victim of disease, poison, or a divine fate? The truth remains lost in the sands of history. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Genghis Khan, the name alone sent shivers through the hearts of empires. A warrior, a ruler, a man who forged the Mongol Empire from the windswept steppes to the gates of Europe. But despite his unstoppable rise, his death remains a closely guarded mystery. How did the greatest conqueror of all time meet his end? And why was his final resting place hidden for centuries? By the early 13th century, Genghis Khan had become the most powerful man on earth. He united the Mongol tribes, crushed the mighty Khwarezmian Empire, and struck fear into the hearts of China, Persia, and Europe. But in the year 1227, something unexpected happened. Genghis Khan, the man who seemed invincible, suddenly died. The most widely accepted account claims that Genghis Khan died during his final campaign against the Western Xia dynasty. According to Mongol sources, he fell from his horse due to exhaustion or injury. His wounds never fully healed, and days later, the Great Khan succumbed to his injuries. But could the most feared warrior in history really have died from something as simple as a fall? Or is there more to the story? Assassination by a Xia princess? Some believe Genghis Khan was not simply injured in battle, but murdered. A famous legend tells of a captured Xia princess who, seeking revenge for her fallen people, stabbed or poisoned Genghis Khan in his tent. Was his death an act of vengeance? Infection from a battle wound? Others claim he was wounded in battle, possibly by an arrow or spear, and that the wound became infected, leading to his slow death. Plague or illness? Some historians speculate that he succumbed to disease, possibly bubonic plague or typhus, contracted during his long military campaigns. Regardless of how he died, the secrecy surrounding Genghis Khan's death only deepens the mystery. To prevent grave robbers and enemies from desecrating his remains, his followers buried him in an unknown location and went to extreme measures to keep it hidden. Some accounts say that the soldiers who buried him were executed, so no one would know the location. Others claim a river was diverted over his grave, forever concealing it from the world. For centuries, explorers, archaeologists, and even governments have searched for Genghis Khan's tomb. Despite rumors, hidden maps, and advanced technology, the final resting place of the Great Khan remains undiscovered. No matter how he died, Genghis Khan's legacy is undeniable. His empire reshaped the world, his descendants ruled vast lands, and his strategies are still studied today. But the question remains, how did he really die? And will we ever find his lost tomb? What do you think? Did Genghis Khan die from an accident, an illness, or was he murdered? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you on the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe.